We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
The big box media is in financial freefall. Job market figures continue to be twisted to political advantage. A bevy of new laws from the woke West Coast, and Dr. Jordan Peterson faces the wrath of progressive opinion once more. What could possibly go wrong? Welcome back to Liberty Nation Radio here on the Radio America Network. I'm your host, Mark Angelides. On today's show, we'll discuss all the aforementioned topics and a whole lot more. I'd like to say a quick thank you to our listeners out on KACT on 1360 AM out of Andrews, Texas. Thanks for being part of the team. Remember, this show is proudly sponsored by LibertyNation.com, where you can access podcasts, breaking news, analysis, and a range of biting and brilliant shows to whet your appetite for freedom and your fondness for the great American Constitution. Winter has come for the big box media in the form of tanking stocks and market fears. With billions of dollars fleeing the industry, what machinations lurk behind the fourth estate bonfire of the vanities? Well, we're joined by Liberty Nation's economics editor, Andrew Moran, and host of the excellent Swamponomics to figure out if wokeness killed the media star or whether something else is at play. Welcome back to the show, Andrew, and a happy new year to you.
Thank you for having me. Happy New Year. Happy Festivus to all the Seinfeld fans.
Oh, happy Festivus to all Seinfeld fans. Absolutely. It's Festivus for the rest of us. Now, give us the details, Andrew. How much money has evaporated and from which companies specifically?
Well, the overall market lost about, $2 trillion, $3 trillion over last year. But a lot of these companies, these big box media companies, Comcast, Netflix, New York Times, they all lost billions of dollars last year. You see the stock tickers. I made a chart for Liberty Nation highlighting, 60% here, 30% here, 40% here. So it was really remarkable to see how much was lost over the last year based on considering previous years. You look at Netflix as an example. Netflix was a Wall Street darling up until 2022. And just last year, tanks 60, 70%, which is something I expected based on the fact of a rising rate environment would kill a company like Netflix.
Okay, so clearly the media industry, it's been trending upwards for many years. If you consider it over a longer period of time, compared to 20 years ago, compared to 10 years ago, the industry has exploded exponentially. But is this particular drop that it's now facing, is this reflected in other markets, or is it just an outlier, do you think, specific to this industry genre?
Overall, unless you invested in commodities or the U.S. dollar, you lost a lot of money in the stock market over the last year. But there are different factors influence why the media and tech sector lost. Of course, the big thing was the Federal Reserve raising interest rates. But when it comes to a company like New York Times, the slowdown in ad spending has been a real killer for a lot of these companies. They make a lot of their money based on companies advertising their products on the website. But you see a lot of the reports showing how there have been 6 consecutive declines in ad spending since the spring, and then a lot of the forecasts for the upcoming year in 2023, a slowdown in ad spending, recession fears is another key factor. So a whole variety of why you're seeing these companies tank and why they're laying off thousands of workers.
So media industries, are they particularly susceptible to advertising revenue drops?
Yes.
Advertised spending drops? Because with something like Netflix, for example, it's not really that focused on advertising. They get the majority of their cash from subscription payments, right?
Yeah, but with Netflix, they're launching an ad-supported subscription model in the coming year. They're following a lot of the other companies who have adopted the ad-supported model. You saw recently NBC Universal CEO, he was talking about this in a third quarter conference call, and he said that at the significant reduction in ad spending has decimated the company's overall revenues, which is why not only did the revenues fall short of their estimates in the third quarter, the company slashed its estimates for the fourth quarter. So that's going to be a big part in the coming year. But with Netflix, as I wrote it, in 2019 before the pandemic, the biggest thing that would impact Netflix is a higher rate environment. Because you look at their balance sheet, they have about $18 billion in debt with only a cash flow about $6 billion. That's a huge gap.
Surely the Meghan Markle and Prince Harry extravaganza has fixed that mere drop in the ocean.
Well, you need a multi-part series of feeling sorry for Prince Harry, and then he's going to complain and moan and whine and then say, oh, my life is so terrible because I lived in such opulence all my life. And then Meghan Markle's going to say, oh, my life is so terrible because I'm this millionaire who someone said a bad word in Buckingham Palace one time.
So, Andrew, I think part of what I wanted to get into here was wondering how much the companies that control, so the mega structures behind the companies, how much their individual decisions are affecting their market impact and thus their revenue streams. So to me, and obviously I'm not an economist, and I don't play one on TV, but it seems to me that companies that are pushing more for the woke agendaism, it's not so much that it's a case of go woke, go broke. It's a case that there are so many new companies entering the field that have this same far left progressive ideology, that it's being filtered. What was initially a good market share for people who like the progressive output stuff, there's now more options for them to choose from, and so that their piece of the pie is getting smaller. Now, that's just my I don't know what you'd call it, like armchair analysis. What do you make of that?
Well, what's interesting to talk about options. One of the biggest things that I've read from market analysts for Morningstar and Bloomberg is that a lot of them anticipated greater activity levels in the merger and acquisitions realm in the big box media sectors. You're gonna have a lot of other corporations absorb, a streaming firm, or you're gonna have a lot of these streaming firms adopt, purchase other content from other companies. You saw this. I mean, I don't go too deep into film history, but you saw this a lot in the 1950s, 1960s, where a lot of these smaller, surprisingly, distributors or production companies, they produced films that critically were great, but they lost a lot of money in the box office, and they actually went bankrupt as a result, and they had to be absorbed by these larger box office studios, and therefore they bought all the content. But overall, when it comes to the woke content stuff, I mean, I've been asked this too. I mean, Jeff Charles asked me that question: how much does wokeness affect the bottom line of these companies? It's hard to gauge. I mean, you could make the correlation. You start seeing, Netflix. Netflix had that Korean movie about this guy who was pregnant, and then interestingly enough, when that movie became was widespread, that's when you saw the bottom line of these companies falling. So I think woke. I mean, people are sick and tired of being force fed this nonsense. But at the same time, I mean, people are staying. I mean, here's the thing. There's two things. So the movie theater business has yet to recover fully from the pre-pandemic levels. But when people do go to the movie theater, they're choosing things like Top Gun or the latest superhero movie. But for a lot of the smaller independent or even mid-budget films, they're going to these streaming services. They're going to Amazon, they're going to Netflix, going to whoever offers these products. So it's hard to really choose. It's hard to really to fathom, does the woke content impact Netflix if people are staying home to watch Netflix to capture the latest, was it the Knives Out, that latest film, or Avatar, those. So it's hard to gauge how much it's impacting the bottom line for these businesses.
Yeah, I think part of it certainly is that there's a certain amount of consumers who are turned off by the pervading sense of wokeness, but according to these media companies themselves, that's only extremists that aren't on board with this kind of stuff.
Well, okay, I agree.
So surely what they're saying is it's a tiny element of the market that are being turned off. And I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, well, actually, Bob Iger, he would probably agree with you. He when he returned as CEO of Disney, he held that powwow with staffers at the company. He said, you know what, we're going to be less vocal. We're going to be more considerate. We're not going to be focused so much. And I'm paraphrasing, of course, but we're not going to be focused on woke content and and transgenders having, I don't know, whatever, wearing dog faces or something, whatever the crazy nonsense the left is coming out. So,
which has been happening at Disney for decades, of course. The wearing of dog faces.
Exactly. You look at all the progressive, messaging that goes onto these latest Star Wars movies. But I think in the short term, Disney's probably going to try to tone down that type of content, produce more things like, I think from what Jeff tells me, things like Mandalorian doesn't fall for that nonsense, or this latest Mandalorian prequel doesn't fall for this nonsense.
You're saying words from your mouth that mean nothing to me, but I assume that these are Disney Star Wars products you're talking about. I'm
going based on what Jeff tells me, because Jeff Charles, our host of Right On, he's into these things. He knows more than I do about that kind of content. So I'm quoting from he says.
Fair enough, Andrew. Fair enough. We won't take away your cinephile bona fides. Andrew Moran, we'll be right back with Andrew after this short break, busting the 2023 labor market myths. Don't go anywhere. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides. Entertaining, informative, and just plain fun. Watch Liberty Nations, The Conservative 5. Produced by conservatives for conservatives. C5's The Left Free Zone. Hosted by Liberty Nations' Lisa K. Donner. Joined by a raucous, irreverent panel of authors. Deconstructing leftist narratives. Debating the hot topics. And remembering to laugh. Join the official conservative safe
You only
space.
did that to piss Jeff off.
Liberty Nations, The Conservative 5.